They called it myth. But myth is often the name given to truths too dangerous to speak, buried beneath the sands of Egypt, sealed in clay jars and hunted by empires. Some ancient scriptures carried a warning so powerful, it was nearly erased from human memory, not because it was false, but because it revealed too much about this world, about the soul, and about those who built the system that keeps us bound. You've never seen these texts in the Bible. That was no accident. They claimed that the God of this world is not the true one, and that the light we follow may be the greatest illusion of all. That's why this video exists, to unveil what was hidden for centuries, but what you may have already begun to sense. The warning that survived the flames. Imagine a book so dangerous it had to be buried. A collection of texts hidden beneath desert sands, sealed in silence for nearly 2,000 years. Not out of superstition, but out of fear. Fear that the human soul might discover what it was never supposed to forget, that this world is not what it seems to be. Before we go deeper, if something inside you already senses that this truth was buried in your own soul, then liking this video and subscribing to the channel is more than just a gesture. It's a silent pact with the invisible. You teach the algorithm and the universe that you're ready to remember. And by doing that, you draw more content into your reality that resonates with the frequency of awakening. In 1945, in the village of Nag Hammadi, a farmer discovered ancient jars containing 52 mysterious texts. They weren't among the Gospels, you know. They spoke of a God who imprisons, of a soul that fell into forgetfulness, and of a secret knowledge that could set everything free. These were the Gnostic texts, and for centuries, the Church called them heresy. But were they really heretical? Or did they reveal something institutions could never allow the people to know? Their content was subversive, revolutionary. They were symbolic maps for spiritual liberation, written in coded language, meant to be understood only by the initiated. Not by chance, they were hunted, their copies destroyed, their followers persecuted as witches, traitors, lunatics. But something survived. Because what is true, what is vibrational, cannot be erased by fire. Now, we're about to enter one of the most disturbing truths these texts reveal. The idea that the creator of the world might not be who you think he is. The world is not what it seems. The Gnostics' hidden cosmology. What if the God who created this world wasn't the true God? For the Gnostics, this wasn't a question. It was a terrifying certainty. They believed the visible universe was shaped by a being called the Demiurge, an imperfect creator, unaware of the supreme source. An architect who believes he is God, but merely imitates light with shadows. This cosmology is deeply symbolic, but also deeply dangerous, because it flips everything traditional religions have taught. The creator of the material world, according to the Gnostics, is the one who keeps the soul imprisoned, and the archons, his assistants, feed off our fear, desire, and ignorance. Curiously, Hermeticism also speaks of a cosmic architect. In the Corpus Hermeticum, he is described as a mental craftsman, shaping reality from the primordial chaos. But there's a subtle difference. Hermeticists don't see him as evil, but as a reflection of forgetfulness, of the mind drifting away from the all. At their core, both paths say the same thing. The world we see as a projection of fragmented consciousness. The difference lies in their approach. Gnosticism exposes the prison. Hermeticism teaches how to escape it, by transmuting the world from within. Have you ever felt this world is too incoherent to be truly divine? Have you ever sensed that something beneath society, rules, and routine is deeply wrong? Maybe you've already brushed up against this Gnostic truth, that we're living inside a theater and the soul has forgotten it's the author of the script. Let's go deeper, and you'll understand how this forgetting was engineered, and why the soul's greatest prison never needed walls. The invisible prison, how the soul was deceived. Not every prison has bars. The most effective ones are invisible. For the Gnostics, the greatest blow to the soul was not pain, it was forgetting. They believed that at birth, the soul was wrapped in mental veils made of distraction, fear, and desire. These veils are not only in the outer world, they live inside the mind, in the compulsion for approval, in the chase for hollow pleasures, in the identification with a self that isn't who you truly are. The Gnostics called this the sleep of the soul, a state in which the human lives like a puppet to forces they don't understand, forgetting they were made of the same essence as stars and gods, forgetting they were born free, and spent life asking for permission to be. Modern psychology, interestingly, confirms this. Carl Jung said, "What you do not bring to consciousness will direct your life." Neuroscience speaks of automatic patterns we repeat without knowing why. And quantum physics suggests that reality responds to our consciousness. But few know what they're actually vibrating. What if everything you were taught about who you are is part of the play? What if the system doesn't fear your opinion, but your awakening? Because a soul that remembers its origin cannot be manipulated. It doesn't need permission, approval, or salvation. But why was this hidden? Why erase such liberating wisdom? The answer lies in what they did to the Gnostics, and why their words were silenced for centuries. The silenced truth. Why the Gnostics were hunted. The Gnostics were not just ignored, they were hunted, their texts burned, their teachers accused of heresy. But were their teachings really that dangerous? Yes, to the empires built upon the control of other people's souls. The Gnostic message required no temples, no tithes, no promises of paradise. It declared, "The kingdom is within you, and salvation comes through self-knowledge." This dismantled the power structure of organized religions and the social systems fed by blind obedience. Institutionalized Christianity saw Gnosticism as a direct threat. It wasn't a theological disagreement. It was a crack in the foundation. While churches taught that God was distant, the Gnostics said he was asleep within us, and to awaken him one must break mental chains, not just follow commandments. Historically, this led to persecution. Councils decided which books were sacred and which were forbidden. Gospels like Thomas and Mary were hidden for defying the official narrative. The Nag Hammadi library, buried in the desert, was a spiritual act of resistance to preserve the truth for a future time. Perhaps this one, because there is something Gnosticism does that no institution can tolerate. It makes the human being autonomous, and an autonomous soul does not worship, does not fear, it chooses, it remembers. And that is what makes Gnosticism dangerous. But what exactly was in those hidden texts? What words were so powerful they had to be buried? What you're about to hear is more than doctrine. It's code. What's hidden in the scriptures? Gospels they don't want you to read. Imagine opening an ancient book and feeling like it speaks directly to your soul. Not with promises, not with dogma, but with riddles. That's how many describe the impact of the Gnostic Gospels, like Thomas, Mary, or Philip. They don't try to indoctrinate, they try to activate. Each phrase feels like a mirror. If you're ready, you'll see. If you're not, it will all seem like disconnected words. The Gospel of Thomas says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what is within you will save you." That's not an external command. It's an inner calling, a key to unlock what's already locked inside. And here's the secret. The Gnostic scriptures were written for initiates, not for religious followers. The Corpus Hermeticum does the same. It doesn't explain. It provokes. Phrases like, "The all is in all," or "God is a mind that thinks itself," aren't philosophical definitions. They are seeds that only sprout when the soul is ready to feel. It's not coincidence. It's correspondence. Modern psychology is beginning to recognize this phenomenon. Carl Jung said archetypal symbols activate contents from the collective unconscious. In other words, some texts work like inner maps, accessing parts of you that logic could never reach. These Gospels are exactly that. Vibrational portals disguised as simple phrases. And isn't it strange that these texts are resurfacing now? That more and more people are being drawn to them without even knowing why? Perhaps it's because the vibrational field of humanity is finally ready to remember, instead of just repeat. But there's still a mystery that hasn't been revealed. Among the 52 texts found in Nag Hammadi, not all were Gnostic. Some came from another forgotten school of wisdom. And once you discover which one, everything starts to make even more sense. The silent revelation, the Hermetic manuscripts found with the Gnostics. Among the sealed papyrus scrolls of Nag Hammadi, next to the Gospels of Thomas, Mary, and Philip, archaeologists found something few ever mention: manuscripts from the Corpus Hermeticum, texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, the same master who taught that all is mind, all vibrates, and all can be transmuted. What were these texts doing there, mixed with Gnostic Gospels? They don't belong to the same religion, or even the same culture, but maybe they belong to the same soul lineage. Because neither speaks of belief, they speak of remembrance. And both teach that the soul must awaken on its own, not by force, but by awareness. Jung said that when different symbols point to the same truth, it's because there is an archetype behind them. In this case, the archetype of divine awakening present in both Gnosticism and Hermeticism. They are paths that begin apart, but end at the same point: the remembrance that we are sparks of the all. This convergence goes beyond the esoteric. Neuroscience now shows that symbolic, nonlinear learning activates deep areas of emotional memory. That's why texts like these, even when difficult, make something vibrate within, because they weren't written for the logical mind. They were encoded for the soul, and perhaps that's why they were hidden together. As if someone back in the 3rd century knew the soul, would only be ready to understand this secret when it could see both sides of the coin, like a map and a compass sealed in the same chest. But there's an even deeper reason why these truths sparked fear. Because when the soul awakens, it becomes ungovernable. And that's why, for centuries, these voices were silenced. But now they return, and what they reveal might change the game entirely. The Forgotten Codex, revelations from the texts the Church didn't want to preserve. Among the Gospels deemed too dangerous to survive, there are phrases that strike like silent explosions. The Gospel of Thomas says, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me." For dogma, this was intolerable. Jesus not as an external savior, but as an inner presence, a master who lives in the awakened heart. The Gospel of Mary goes even further. In it, Mary Magdalene is portrayed as one who deeply grasped the secret teachings of Jesus more than the disciples themselves. She speaks of the soul passing through spheres, overcoming forces trying to block its return to the light. A metaphor as symbolic as it is revolutionary. And the most striking part, these Gospels do not condemn the body, nor desire, nor the earth. They condemn ignorance. They point out that sin is not moral, it is forgetfulness. The mistake for the Gnostics is to live as if there were nothing greater vibrating within us. That is the fall, losing connection to what is real. Today, depth psychology is beginning to say the same thing. Jung spoke of the self as the divine core of the psyche. Joseph Campbell saw myths as soul maps, and neuroscience shows that legitimate spiritual experiences cause real changes in the brain, creating new circuits of perception, compassion, and purpose. These texts do not ask for worship. They ask for awakening. They don't demand blind faith. They demand courage to look within. And maybe that's why they were erased, because they required no priests, no rituals, no hierarchies, only the soul and silence. But there is still one manuscript that chills the spine to this day, one that carries not just wisdom, but a warning. What it said was too dangerous to survive. But now, it's returning. And what's written there, if you are ready to hear it, may turn everything upside down. The dark warning, texts that speak of spiritual deception. Not every Gnostic manuscript speaks of light, transcendence, and freedom. Some bring warnings so disturbing they seem written precisely for this very moment in human history. The Apocryphon of John describes a world where the Creator is an imitator, a blind, arrogant entity hungry for worship, who proclaims himself God. Without knowing he is merely shadow, he is called Yaldabaoth, the demiurge. His creation is described as a replica of the original light, a vibrational matrix built to imprison souls. And the most unsettling part, the Gnostics said many would be deceived by him, that the religion of the world would not serve truth, but control. The Gospel of the Egyptians goes even deeper. It speaks of entities that wear forms of light, only to seduce the soul and divert it from the source. A brutal warning. Not everything that looks sacred is. Not every master is light. The most dangerous deception is the one disguised as salvation. This kind of revelation had no place in temples, nor in the hands of the clergy. That's why these texts were buried, because they taught that the soul's greatest enemy is not sin. It is illusion, attachment to form, the confusion between appearance and essence, between worship and awakening. Modern science might call this cognitive dissonance. Jung would say, the shadow projected onto the divine. But the Gnostics spoke aloud what most only dare to whisper. Salvation is not found on the altar. It is found in the inward journey, and only the awakened soul can recognize the impostor that presents itself as God. These writings don't aim to frighten, they aim to prepare. To remind us that awakening is a minefield of symbols, and that discernment is essential to avoid mistaking the prison for the temple. Because the true Christ does not demand worship. He invites remembrance. And now, after walking through this hidden labyrinth, it's time to understand what all of this reveals. Gnosticism and Hermeticism were never enemies. They were two halves of a truth that only the initiated could unite. And that is what you are about to touch. Now. Two voices, one truth. The meeting between Gnosticism and Hermeticism. Now that you've crossed the thresholds of the Gnostic warnings, perhaps something still echoes within you. Why were the Nag Hammadi texts sealed alongside the Hermetic manuscripts? Why was the wisdom of Thoth resting beside the Gospels of Thomas, Mary, and Philip? The answer lies not just in archaeology, but in the soul, because Gnosticism and Hermeticism were never truly separate. They were fragmented by history, but born from the same spiritual womb. Both emerged in Hellenistic Egypt, where mystics and philosophers sought truth not through blind faith, but through direct experience of the divine mind. They were parallel paths that deep down spoke the same message. Gnosticism said, awaken. The world you call real is an illusion built by unconsciousness. Hermeticism completed. All is mind. Everything can be transmuted, even destiny itself. One was the cry of the prisoner who sees the cage. The other, the map of one who found the way out. And when brought together, they become a perfect, mirror of the awakened soul. That's why their messages were sealed, hidden, and encoded. Not because they were lies, but because they were too much power for a blind world. One said, "This world is the veil." The other, "Here's how to tear through it with wisdom." Only those who hear both sides can truly grasp the whole. Modern psychology, quantum physics, and even epigenetics are beginning to confirm these ancient insights, that mind creates, that reality responds to consciousness, and that the soul carries records beyond DNA. Jung spoke of archetypes, Bohm of implicate order, Laszlo of the A field. All point to a truth the ancients already knew, and that you are now beginning to remember. Maybe that's why you're here now. Because the fusion of these two keys, Gnosticism as warning and Hermeticism as path, is not just information. It's activation. It's memory rising to the surface. And what comes after this remembrance will not be another video. It will be a transformation, a crossing, a new level of reality vibrating inside you. Because when the veil falls, you can never go back. When the veil falls, nothing remains untouched. You didn't just walk through a script. You crossed a living manuscript, the kind not written in ink, but in vibrational memory. Gnosticism spoke of forgetting. Hermeticism, of the power to remember. And by reaching this point, you've activated something that has long slept within you. We revisited the buried secrets of Nag Hammadi, explored a cosmology that flips what we were taught about God, soul, and reality. We touched the invisible, prison woven from distractions. We listened to the silence of the fires that tried to erase the truth. And finally, we revealed the two pillars, the Gnostic warning and the Hermetic map, sealed together, waiting for you. You've seen that awakening is not about believing, it's about confronting. It's not about memorizing doctrine, it's about dissolving illusion. And that those who awaken become ungovernable, not out of rebellion but lucidity. Because, as the Gospel of Thomas said, when you bring forth what is within you will save you. If something within you vibrated, if these words didn't just inform but stirred something, then you are ready to take the next step. The ebook. The key to prosperity, transform your financial life with the Hermetic laws, is not just about money. It's about aligning your frequency with the universal laws. It's available in the first pinned comment. But it's not for everyone. It's for those who feel the time has come to live what the soul has always known. Like, subscribe, and share this video as a form of energetic reciprocity. This isn't about algorithms. It's about teaching reality to bring more wisdom like this to you. And now that both keys are in your hands, don't stop here. Watch the video in the final card. Everything they hid about the Akashic records. Only the spiritually ready will understand. It reveals the hidden field where your own story is recorded, and which only the spiritually ready can decode. I'll see you there. Or somewhere between forgetting and remembrance. Because, now that the veil has fallen, nothing can stop what is about to emerge from within you.